realwatersports.com. Scott Bass from the Outer Banks of North Carolina. They've been getting good waves this last week or so, but they're also our retail partner for any and all of your water sports needs.
Yeah, well, gosh, I'm glad they're getting some fun surf. We certainly are lacking here in Southern California. But yeah, it's the time of year to get good waves over there on the East Coast, right? Although
Totally.
those guys have told me, I've heard, I think it was even Jesse over there in the other bank. He's like, everyone thinks the hurricane swells are good, but those ones are kind of lame.
Really?
Yeah, because they're a little walled.
Mm.
But
Looks good in photos.
yeah, I'm sure they're scoring off the thing that's so cool about the Outer Banks is there's so much to do from a water standpoint. Fishing,
Exactly.
sailing, kiting, foiling, surfing, boating. It's like it's a water mecca.
That's why it's for real water sports, not just surfing, any and all your water sport needs. Can you fix the plug-in for your mic? I'm getting distortion. Give me a check, 1, 2, check.
Check 1, 2, check 1, 2. Still
Way
no.
better. Way better. All
Way
fixed.
better. Are you sure?
I'm certain.
Okay, good. Yeah.
And then also while you're there, Surf NVS. NVS Fins is available through Real Water Sports or their own website, surfnvs.com. They actually just sent me a new pair of Sea Drives twins and also Roger Hines twin fins last week too. So
Oh, cool. Good for you. Yeah. So what board are you going to put those new Naked Vikings fins in, the NVS fins?
a yin yang twin from Eden Saul of Dead Kooks.
Wow. See, you're starting to get worse than I am. Like, let's be clear here, because you're interviewing all these guys. That's the thing, right? It happens,
That's the
David. Tell me
problem.
it happens. You interview these shapers, and before you know it, you're like, all right, I'll take what it cost.
That's the exact problem is they see that you get on the fence and then they're like, well, dude, I'll hook you up. Be like, you don't have to pay full price, you know? And
Yeah.
so then that's the final thing. But I'm thrilled. And that's, like I said, you get these ideas. I got a queue in my head of boards that I
Yeah.
want, you know? And
Yeah.
so, it's not hard to get one bumped off the queue and into reality. So anyways, Dave Rostovich is featured the front of our minds going into the electric acid surfboard test. And on Dead Kook's website, he has a video of Dave riding this board. And so that was kind of the pleasure as well.
That's the other problem, right? They're like, yeah, we've got video of Dave Rostovich ripping on our model. And you're like, okay, I'm in. Or Rob Machado, or what, like your favorite surfers. You see a board by Craig Anderson, you see Clay Marzo, you're like, okay, these are the guys,
Yeah. And I have fins that I think would work on it, but they made a suggestion that the Roger Hines fins would be appropriate. And I'm like, you know what? I could try a new pair. Let's go for it. So here we are.
Yeah. Well, NVS fins, look, you can meet those guys at the Boardroom Show too. They've got a booth right in the smack dab in the middle of it all. So go check out and talk to Leif and Jamin at the Naked Vikings.
As we see some movement at the takeoff zone, it's Kelly Slater grabbing rail. A clean entry, this thing holding open, it spits.
When it spit me, I thought it was going to spit me off my board.
Comes out with the spit, spits him out.
Comes out after the spit.
Gets spat out of another good-looking wave here.
Spit. We're just spitballing, right? Yeah, I got. Yeah, guy. Oh my gosh, it is Spit, David. It's the surfing podcast where David Lee Scales, Scott Bass. We talk all things surf and occasionally some other stuff. It is the date, David, Monday, September 16th. It's 7 a.m. Good morning, David Scales.
Bright and early. Great to see you, Scott Bass.
Yeah, buddy. Speaking of talking about all things surf and some other stuff, I think I told you I'm reading Lonesome Dove. Did I tell you that?
You did. Yeah.
And I'm supposed to read this book by Phil Knight. Did I tell you that?
No.
Called Knighted. I think it's called Shoe Dog, maybe. And it's about the Nike thing. And then somebody dropped off, well, a listener and a good friend of mine, Steve Granger, dropped off. Is it how many years before the mast? 2 years before the mast? Henry Dana's book. I think it's 2 years before the mast.
I'm not familiar with it.
Henry. Oh, it's a pretty famous book. anyway, it's written by Henry Dana, who is a sort of a legendary, I think he was a senator, but this book is his time on a sailing, probably a brigantine or something, sailing the California coast and going into these various ports. I haven't read it yet. I think that's what it's about, but I'm looking forward to reading that. So what are
Wow.
you reading?
Well, by the way, the 𝗚𝗍𝗲𝗁, I've heard nothing but every time that comes up, it's from somebody important who I respect praising it. So
Yeah, it's for our book club, and one of the guys in our book club was like, okay, and then he read it. He's like, dude, it's really good. You're going to be surprised how great it is. So
yeah, that's what I've heard too. By the way, this listener call came in a couple months ago, and I never shared it with you, but I'm going to share it with you now since we're on the subject because I
Okay.
thought it was
Hey
funny.
guys, listening to the Spit July 10th, headlining breaking news. It trumps the entire podcast. Scott Bass is in a book club.
That's it. That's the call.
I think he's making fun of me.
I don't
but
think he is. I
that's
think it's
fine, too.
unusual. I think it's yeah, it's not what he was expecting to hear in that given show, but I don't think he's making fun.
Well, that's okay. Everyone's welcome to make fun of me. I'm right here for you.
I'll tell you what, this is not making fun, but I was a little bit surprised to see it on Instagram. 𝗚𝗿𝗄𝗏, like 2 weeks ago, selfie mode video. He looked like real sincere and earnest, and he starts going into this explanation and admission. And his admission was he just finished his first book ever as an adult.
Really? Well,
Yeah,
good
and
for him.
he held up the book, and I was like, good, like you said, good for him. I'm glad that he read a book, but I'm also surprised that he's admitting it on Instagram.
That's kind of sweet. Like I'm here for that, to be honest with you. Like I'm toasting 𝗚𝗏 and his book reading and his literary journey. And frankly, you know what? I think we should all, I mean, look, I think we should all get a little bit more involved in reading books. They're so engrossing. You know, you get a good book and it's so much wider, and the birth is so much bigger than what we deal with on our phones. It's just a lot of fun.
Well, the alternative for me is watching television or a movie, and both I think have value and serve their purpose, but reading is engaging a lot more in your mind and stimulating. It almost feels like growth in the mind, you know, it's populating brain cells somehow, as opposed to like vegging out. Like when I watch TV, it's almost exclusively to decompress.
Yeah.
Whereas a book is stimulative.
But a book isn't, it's not stressful.
Right.
So, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. And the way that stimulation can be stressful, but yeah, because like you could read a book right before bed and still go to bed without having overstimulated. But I feel like it is obviously engaging things in your brain that television and devices don't otherwise.
Yeah. Well, there's so much out there. There's so much opportunity for reading too. I wish I was a faster reader. My problem is I read at night and I fall asleep. Like I can get into like 4 or 5 pages, and before you know it, like it's a narcotic for me, or it's a, what's the word? It puts me out.
Yeah. What is the word? Sedative.
Okay.
Not the perfect word.
I'm looking for another word, but it's narcoleptic or something, or
a narcoleptic.
Okay, people, give us the word. We know there's people screaming at their podcast listening device right now. Anyway.
Yeah, well, we know what you mean. How about that?
Yeah. David, a lot going on, but not really. But I certainly have some stuff to discuss. What about you?
I got one follow-up note from last week that came pouring in times 10.
Let me guess. Katie Simmers, it wasn't her rookie season. I got hit by that so many times, and I apologize. I screwed that up. You know,
I didn't even catch it. When you said it, I for some reason was maybe looking at my notes and I just missed that sentence. But yeah, Caitlin Simmers made the finals last year as well in her rookie year, but this year was not her rookie year. Congratulations on your championship.
Man, yes, congrats. Yes, that was a big faux pas on my part, and I caught a lot of grief for it. And by the way, rightly so. You know what? That's not okay.
Well, I got one other follow-up from 2 weeks ago. When I read to you Derek Hines' most influential surfers of all time that he published in the Surfers Journal.
Yeah.
Tony, surf photographer, videographer, Tony Roberts wrote in and said, number one, I love these premises, these unanswerable premises that really make you dive deep. Like this one about the most influential surfers of all time. Surprisingly, I could not think of anyone more influential than PT. Surfing wise, he helped bust down the door. He was the world champ in 1976. He molded Tom Curren from a stoner kid on the NSSA to a future world champ. In association, he helped create and manage. He was the GOAT's biggest influence before Kelly really went on to influencing some of the most surfers worldwide. But the sum of those parts is greater than the total. There's the bronzed Aussies who, if you weren't around in the 70s, were revolutionary and highly impactful, stressing an anti-drug / anti-booze message in the height of that era. He was a world-class shaper. He had a regular piece in the major newspapers in Sydney. He had perhaps the first real surf show on TV. It was called Wave Watch, and it was all time. His ESPN commentating is still talked about today. He surfed in the greatest Hollywood film of all time, Big Wednesday. He was the publisher of Surfing Magazine, president of SEMA, so much more.
That's a really great take. And it speaks to one thing, Derek Hines' piece, and how you can jump off. It's a jumping off point for all sorts of discussion. But I would agree, like that is a really good take. And oh, by the way, if you believe that PT to this day isn't a behind the scenes mover and shaker in ways that you don't even know, then you don't know PT, because he gets after it, and he's very politically astute within the surf industry. He knows each and every lever to pull and how to pull it and when to pull it. And more often than not, decisions that are made that you and I are discussing on air, somewhere down the line, PT had his, hand in it probably. So yeah, that's
well, what's crazy is that you forget all of those career highlights along the way.
Hold on. If you know PT, the one thing you don't do is forget about his career highlights, because he'll tell you about it. And you know what? Rightly so. The guy and he's been to honor, he's got some Hall of Fame stuff in Huntington Beach. But yeah, by the way, did he even make Derek Hines' list?
I'd have to double check.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
That is a great call, Tony. By the way, Tony Roberts, in my opinion, perhaps has a world record as the oldest man to do an aerial. I'm pretty sure, because he posted a photo of him ripping an aerial like, a month ago. And I was like, because Tony's probably my age. Like he's probably might be a little bit younger. He might be 55 or something. I don't know, but he's doing aerials like this year, like solid aerials.
He's committed. He's committed to progressing in his surfing, and skate influence surf too. Like if I ever on air poo-poo the techie aspect of surfing, or value, let's say, barrels or big waves over a 3 foot air on a 3 foot wave, he's always the first to swing in and be like, dude, that is just one subjective opinion. I totally disagree with you. The surfing that, the rapid fire 𝗚𝗿𝗏𝗲 surfing is every bit as beautiful and interesting as whoever else. So he's a proponent and living it out too.
Wow. He's a good man, and good for him. And he's inspiring. Like if you're in your 40s and you want to see a guy that's living the life, Tony Roberts down there in Central America, surfing warm waves, and good for him. I also have another follow-up from last week when I mentioned, how's my microphone?
It's good.
Okay. I mentioned Kelly Slater might be the world's greatest free surfer now that he's quote unquote retired.
Right.
And I got a little pushback, and actually not pushback, but a more thoughtful way to look at this. And I'll read it. This came through our YouTube comments section on the YouTube channel. And it says, and it's from a guy named, well, his YouTube handle is Bun Solo. I have always been a fan of Kelly surfing, and he is undeniably the GOAT, having achieved more than probably any surfer ever will. That being said, I don't think he makes it into the top 5 free surfers. I feel like it was his competitive drive, his savvy, and his ruthlessness that took him to GOAT status, along with his magical connection to the ocean. As a free surfer, most of that stuff doesn't factor. So is he just one of many legendary surfers? So he is just one of many legendary surfers. Am I wrong? Question mark. And he brings up a good point, because for whatever reason, it's sort of hard to swallow Kelly as one of the top 5 free surfers. And I think he kind of nailed, I think Bun Solo kind of nailed it. Like, Kelly's GOAT status is related to his competitive savvy. But I don't know. I ask you to, I point to, like the crossing videos, the crossing footage. I point you, of course, to this year at Kira, a couple of waves that he caught out there just looked incredible. And frankly, even when he has his jersey on, he feels like he's free surfing. And he's one of the few competitive surfers to have that kind of mojo.
Yeah, look, you could make an argument that if you just took Kelly's free surfing video clips, it ranks with the best surfing we've ever seen of all time, right? So you could make your argument for him being one of the greatest free surfers of all time. However, he is so defined in everybody's mind by his world titles. And I think even Kelly defines himself by his competitive achievements. So that's the only distinction really, is how do you want to define this?
And also,
I mean, he could be both. He could be the greatest competitive surfer of all time, but also the greatest free surfer of all time. It's just in our minds, we don't think of him as a free surfer. He didn't earn his money off of his free surfing prowess,
And I tend to think of world's greatest free surfer as being a contemporary surfer, like somebody like right now. You know what I mean? As opposed to in a time frame or a timestamp. So like I think Rasta, I think Rob, I think Machado's still a great free surfer, one of the great, like he's in my list because right now, if you watched him surf today, you'd be like, oh my God. Excuse me. And so with that context, is Kelly one of the top 5 right now? And again, it's so easy to go Mason, Clay Marzo, for me, Rasta and Rob Machado. And I mean, you could, like, I don't know, Noah, like there's so many guys that make up that 5. And it just seems like it's hard for Kelly to kind of work his way into that 5,
My only interest in not including Kelly in that conversation, as I'm thinking through the way my brain is working, is simply because Kelly's won everything over and over, and he's just such an easy one to pick, as he's such an obvious one to pick, that I feel a need to shine a light over on Mason or somebody else. But the reality is Kelly would smoke Mason in almost any conditions anywhere in the world. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like
in a free surf, like if
totally.
Yeah. Exactly.
So if we're just kind of completely pushing aside all of our own, I don't know, criteria that we're trying to layer on this, Kelly's clearly in the conversation for top 5 free surfers in the world. There's no question about it in terms of his surfing ability alone, But I just, in my mind, I go, well, why mention Kelly again for the 1 millionth time on the show when we're pointing at best people? Let's kind of look at some other thing that's more interesting or whatever, making an additional contribution.
Yeah, no, you're right. But I do think that and I'll just reiterate that Kelly's so great competitively because when he's competing, it feels as if he's free surfing. Like he's taken off the sort of the cloak of, oh my God, I got these judges I got to impress, at least in the past.
Yeah, in the past. I think that was true up until 5 to 7 years ago. But his competitive surfing in the last 5 to 7 years has left a lot to be desired. And
I found what about Pipeline? Come on. He's a winner.
Yeah, that event was insane. But what's interesting is in that last maybe even 10 years, I've not gotten to see Kelly free surf very often. Whereas the first 20 plus years of my exposure to Kelly, I was getting equal amount free surf, and there'd be videos coming out every year that he had a section in, and then I'd see tons of magazine images of him without a jersey on. And in the last decade, it's almost exclusively in a jersey, and I don't see a lot of free surf footage. And the free surf footage that I do end up seeing blows my mind. And I'm like, why isn't he surfing like this in heats? So,
Yeah, I think he'd be wise to continue to kind of just give us little sample snippets, not, you know what I mean? Like he's at that stage where if you just kind of tease it out every once in a while, it's way more powerful than if it's just full blown in your face all the time.
well, the perfect example of that is Dave Rostovich, who Stab Magazine dropped a little trailer for the electric acid surfboard test this past week. There was like 2 or 3 waves featured. Dave, I was like, he didn't do anything like that was like mind blowing, but his surfing is so freaking beautiful to watch and like
Yes.
perfect.
Yes, exactly. Why
I
is that? I agree. It's perfect. It's there's something that he's connected to the flow that like what about the stuff that Nathan Oldfield put out of him body surfing, of Rostovich body surfing? He body surfs like a dolphin.
Mhm.
He's incredible.
He really is.
Yeah.
I watched that surfing clip over and over again, and I was like, what? It's so he makes it look so simple. Like, oh, I aspire to surf like that. You watch it and you can't help but start to just take notes and be like, okay, all I need to do is this. I just need to do that. He wasn't like ripping the top off of it, but he just surfed so well. So I'm excited for that series based on that clip alone.
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing Dave ripping, and I'm sure that when does Stab start to drop the full edits? Do you know?
No, they were using that clip to advertise the like a screening at the La Paloma, but I don't know if they stated when it's going to go live online.
Oh, okay. Well, here's another question then along these same lines, because it's sort of the elephant in the room, if you will. You know, you've mentioned your list, greatest free surfers. I think Torrin Martin was on there.
Torn was number 2. This was the most influential surfers. The Dare Kind list.
Yeah, I'm just talking about the world's your David Scales is world's greatest free surfers.
Yeah, that's right.
So what are you looking at?
On my phone right now?
Yeah.
Sorry, I know it's distracting when I do that. I
No.
was just trying to pull up the Stab, the Rostovich thing, and they said October 3rd is when episode 1 drops, the electric
cool.
acid surfboard test.
Cool. So my question to you about this, about the greatest free surfers, is where's your first woman? Like who's the greatest woman free surfer?
Well, now it's Steph Gilmore, if we can include her as not being
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, where do the women fall if they're not in your top 5?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Like, what number?
I don't know. I guess in the top 10, if I really thought about it, I think Steph would land in the top 10 for sure.
Really? Greater than Craig Anderson?
At this point, yeah. I mean, I like Craig Anderson. I've always thought like his contributions were a little bit, unique, but I don't know that he'd be landing in my top 10 at this point. Maybe at the height of his power.
Yeah.
Whereas Stephanie Gilmore, whenever I see her stuff, it feels really, really relevant. Like she just posted a clip last week riding a Ryan Birch, whatever.
Yeah.
And it was like fully engaging. Like I want to see more of that. So yeah, that's a good question though.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing that I've thought about with the women is precisely that. There's nobody who's really dedicated their career to the free surf market. I mean, there's a couple of longboarders who have for sure, but like the shortboard,
they haven't been offered the opportunity to do it because of the framework from which girl surfing's been sort of the prism that they've been forced to go down. It's always been competitive.
I think there's no denying that's true, but I've also never seen anybody try to break the mold. Like when Sage Erickson didn't requalify once or twice, if she would have taken a big commitment financially and was like, I'm just going to travel the world and bring a filmer and really put out banger clips, I think that there was an audience that was willing.
That sounds like Sierra Kerr, kind of.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like
I guess so.
She's done that. Well, good. Look,
And
more
the
opportunities for all surfers, the better.
I think you're right. 𝗬𝗏𝗃 not only has done it, but proven that there is a career path there. Like, she's gotten sponsors to fund it. The audience wants to see the clips that she generates. She's gained, her following is probably greater than Sage Erickson's, just as a comparison now. So I think that is viable.
Yeah. Well, we shall see. More will be
Yeah.
revealed. David, I have a who said that. Are you prepared for answering or trying to guess who I'm going to
I am
quote?
I am prepared, and I have one for you as well.
Okay, well, this is the segment where I quote a famous surfer and David tries to guess the surfer who I'm quoting. Here I go. And I quote, I just did the normal things kids do. Played a lot of basketball, BB gun fights in the bamboo forests down the street, stuff like that. But mostly I surfed. A couple years later, I was on the Surfboard's Hawaii team. I was the first president of the Swami Surf Club. David, who said that? Was it A, Al Merrick, B, Bill Castor, C, Mike Doyle, or D, Milton Willis?
Jesus. I mean, throwing Milton Willis in there is a real unusual one. You wouldn't include that unless it was Milton Willis. So I'm going to go Milton Willis.
You are wrong.
Really?
No, you're wrong. Yeah, it's not Milton.
Okay.
It is Al Merrick. Al Merrick, the first president of the Swami Surf Club. You know, Al grew up in Encinitas.
Yeah.
His family moved to Encinitas from New Jersey. He went to San Diego High School. And then I think in the mid to late 60s, he moved up to the Carpinteria, Santa Barbara area. But yeah, Al Merrick is who said that. And I figured the Swami Surf Club thing might throw you off a little bit.
No, but when you said it, it did ring the bell of, oh yeah, Al Merrick is from down there, so that makes sense. But
Yeah.
Milton Willis was the red herring.
Pulled that one out of, that was a deep pull.
No kidding. So what Merrick board do you have in the auction?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. The California Gold Surf Auction, you mean, which takes place October 5th and ends on October 19th. We have one of Kelly Slater's personal surfboards shaped by Al Merrick. And in fact, it's from 1999. It's one of those primary colored boards. It has the yellow, the red, the blue, and the green.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the boards that he took on the crossing trip when he had a soft retirement from the ASP in 99 and 2000. So we have one of Kelly's personal Al Merrick's. And of course, it's signed by Kelly, signed by Al, and a great, opportunity.
Yeah, no kidding. Piece of surf history right there.
Yeah.
I've got, my who said
Okay,
that
but
for
can you wait for just a sec, please?
Yes, I can.
Okie dokie.
All righty. Who said that? Scott Bass. Quote, I've always just loved surfing more than anything else. When I was younger, I told myself that I'm never going to let anything get in the way of surfing. Put it first and just keep doing it. But it's not just on a short board. I'll use a pair of fins and just go body surfing if that's what it is. And it doesn't have to be the best waves anymore either. It's just being out there in the water. Surfing just takes a different form as you get older. You realize that you might not be able to do some of the things that you always wanted to do. Would I like to do an aerial? Yeah, but that's probably not going to happen. You've got to balance life to a certain extent. Surfing keeps me healthy. It's not just the physical act of surfing that does it. It's the fact that I want to stay healthy so that I can surf. That keeps me from, getting drunk or whatever. I don't drink alcohol anymore, but it's also the small things too, like going to bed a little bit earlier so that I'm not tired the next day when I go to check things out. If surfing is your sole focus, then you feel like you have to surf 10-foot pipe or you're not happy. But if you have balance in your life, it makes everything a little bit better. And then you also appreciate the surfing more. I never let surfing take a back seat to do that, but I've always had a business to focus on. I have a wife, kids, now grandkids. Surfing made all of those things better too. If you want to do something for the rest of your life, you've got to keep doing it. The surf might not be that good, but if you're but you're lucky if you got to go surfing today. It gets harder and harder to surf as you get older. And if you don't go today, tomorrow is going to be even harder. That's why I try to go out every day. If you can catch 3 waves a day, you are unstoppable. End quote. Who said that? Is it A, 𝗙𝗿𝗄𝗲𝘁, B, Jeff Hackman, C, Gary Linden, or D, Tom Carroll?
I don't think Tom's a grandparent. I think it's 𝗙𝗿𝗄𝗲𝘁.
It's a great call. It would make sense, but no, it is Gary Linden.
Oh, that's cool.
And
let me just say that was a really, your choice of quotes was kind of like, until you mentioned pipeline and grandchildren, it could have been anybody over 35 years old.
I know. I found that
I was looking for the one moment, and then you said pipe, and I'm like, okay, that's, I guess, a little bit of a clue.
Yeah, no, I've felt that way at times with yours too, where it's like, yeah, it could be a lot of people, but it's Gary Linden, and it's in reference to this next article that I'm going to bring up. I was teeing you up for a relevant article. Jaws is canceled. The WSL's big wave event that they do at Jaws, they officially canceled. They say, we regret to inform you that this season's PI Big Wave Challenge will not take place. WSL was not granted the land license necessary to operate the event, making it impossible to move forward with PI for the 2024-25 season. But a Rebel Big Wave Tour is in the works, and this is being organized by one Gary Linden. Gary says the surfing he thinks there's a necessity for surfing to have a big wave paddle champion, and that it validates the efforts. So he's bringing together what he calls the Big Wave Alliance. BWA is the new name. And it's going to have bring together the world's best surfers in different events, culminating into a final competition. It'll rotate at a different spot each year to crown the new Big Wave World Champion. The organization is the brainchild of Gary Linden, the founder of previous Big Wave World Tour and the former ASP Tour president. He's also working closely with 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, who is a big wave surfer and organizer of the 𝗦𝘂𝗿𝗏𝗏 competition. He said, quote, sporting activity isn't considered a real sport without a champion. I want big wave riding to be recognized as a sport, and we need a champion, end quote.
Well, good. I'm looking forward to seeing that come to fruition. That's a mighty big task. But the good news is that Gary Linden has tons of experience in this arena. So, and he's highly respected by all the surfers. So, I hope that they can get a permit at Jaws. You know,
yeah,
like if we were to whiteboard a big wave tour, you know, in my opinion, I think, I don't know, I'm just riffing with you, but for sure, Jaws, we would need one at Jaws. We would need one at Mavericks. And frankly, from an event production standpoint, those might be it.
A Waimea. I'd go Waimea.
Yeah, I guess you could go Waimea.
Well, so none of those are on the tour for 2025. I think they would be goals. But he said specifically the inaugural season kicks off at Santos del Mar in Chile. Waiting period is July through October. Then the 𝗏𝘂𝗏𝗏 Big Wave Journey is what they're calling it. The Punta Galea Challenge. The Thriller at Killers, at the Toto Santos event. And then a Big Wave 𝗏𝗏𝗏 Pro at Praia de Cardoso in Brazil. So kind of lesser known big wave spots, legitimate big wave spots, but lesser known. And they've restructured this rather than having a single governing body to run multiple events around the world. They're going to have each individual country have their own event with their own scoring, their own rules. So they may not even look like the other events that are running, but they're going to deem a champion out of their own event, and that champion will go on to compete in the finals at the Alliance. And so Gary's really focusing on his efforts on the finals event itself, which will be at a rotating venue. And then each individual event will kind of be responsible for generating their own champ out of that.
Oh, okay. Well, that sounds really interesting. So it's like regional champions all come together for the finals.
That's it. And he
That's
said
great.
the Mavericks event, which you mentioned, they need an event at Mavericks. He said the Mavericks event, they're currently doing a video format event there, like throughout the course of the season. And he
Yeah.
goes, honestly, we'll consider generating a wild card out of that. Like whoever wins that is welcome to come compete essentially in the finals day event.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, look, my hat's off to Gary. He's got his hands full, and again, he's the guy that can make it happen. So that's good news.
And I agree, like the more that we talk about competitive professional surfing, the more we realize it's too nebulous to try to force a structure on, right? And so I think this accounts for that. This is creating, because there is also an instinct, despite it being too difficult to really structure, there is still an instinct to determine who the best surfer is in the water on a given day or over the course of a season.
Yeah.
And so I think this allows to do that. And I think the problem then becomes, if you're not creating a defined format, can you corral enough interest to focus on this undefinable thing to then, create a business out of it essentially, or at least fund itself, not lose money?
If you look at the big wave arena, I would suggest to you that we could just have one event at Jaws. We know we could easily pick 24 dudes, and they've already done this. This isn't, and just have one event to determine the champion. Now, the problem with that is that it tends to be real Jaws centric as far as the surfers invited. Like you don't get guys from, there's a few guys from Brazil, but my point is that you're not drawing from an international field. You're
Right.
kind of drawing from a North American. Again, I know there's some Brazilians involved and there's a couple, but like you kind of need to create a little bit more objective runway and pathway to that event for all of these international surfers. But I kind of feel like one final event that Gary's got in mind is a great idea. How do we field those guys? And oh, by the way, we can't have more than 24, maybe even less. We need this thing happen in a day.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. The other problem is the fan going to be able to watch all these events? Like part of the, you know what I mean?
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I don't know. Part of the idea, if he wants relevancy by crowning a world champ, then you want to have the fans and viewers be engaged in that process and supportive of it. And if you're not one organizing alliance that oversees all of that stuff, then it's going to be very difficult to get the individual events to get their crap together to be able to broadcast it,
Well, first of all, I don't think, as an end user, I don't think we need to see, every event. I think what you do is the purpose of the events is for those nation states to send representatives to the finals.
Yeah.
The bar has already been set. Like if you can't reach Jaws, the level of man versus nature of blue open ocean 35 to 40 foot waves at Jaws with a massive barrel, then don't even broadcast it, in my opinion. Like I don't really want to see big drop, go down to some kind of like fat, flat shoulder and kick out. Like, I'm not engaged. Sorry. It just is what it is. And like I said, the bar has been set.
Yeah.
We want to see the best surfers on one day at 35-foot Jaws. And that's what we want to see. Now get us those. And by the way, in that broadcast, you're going to put together little snippets of how each guy got there. And you can show me one or two waves of them dropping into a 35, 40-foot wave where it's just a drop, which is what most of those spots probably are.
Now that you say it, put it in those terms, you're right. That is a thrilling event to watch, but Mavericks provides that. 𝗬𝗏𝗄𝗏 provides that as well. The last Eddie event was spectacular.
I'm not doubting that, but I'm talking about massive barreling sections.
I mean,
if one guy gets tubed at 𝗬𝗏𝗄𝗏, it's like lucky because of the water was over the reef at the right tide or whatever.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. The massive barreling sections is no denying that, but 𝗬𝗏𝗄𝗏, for its own reasons, provides just as much thrill as the 𝗡𝗲𝗲𝘁𝗃 event did for me.
But my sense is that when YMA is big, they should run the 𝗦𝘂𝗐𝗐.
Right.
You know, and are you going to really pull 2 permits? And
This can be, well,
two
this
events at YMA too much for the locals? And this
I
is
mean,
what
in
politics
Gary's,
of it all.
it seems like in Gary's structure, the YMA winner would get invited to the finals event if the finals event was at Jaws.
Yeah, for sure. I'm down with that.
Yeah.
I'm totally down with that. I just feel like, I almost feel like you shouldn't even do a roving event. Like, again, I'm just whiteboarding with you. I'm sure that Gary's got better ideas than me, but my sense is let's have it at blue water, beautiful Maui every single time when it's 35 foot. Like, I don't really want it at gray, onshore, crumbly, 25 foot Mavericks. It's just not as engaging as an end user.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're right. We kind of know what the ultimate big wave is currently. And there's no sense in overthinking it.
Exactly.
But I'm proud of him for putting something together.
Me too. I'm a huge fan of Gary Linden. He's a great human being, and I'm here to support it.
Totally. Me too.
Speaking of Gary, the Boardroom Show is coming up.
And PT. We were talking about PT earlier. I should have said, I always see PT at the Boardroom Show.
Oh, yeah. He's there. He's rubbing elbows. He's making things happen. I think I told you that Simon Jones had to withdraw from Byron Bay, Australia, and he's been replaced by Chris Hall from the South Bay. Did I mention that too?
I don't know if it was on air or off air, but yeah.
Okay, so Chris Hall is one of the 8 shapers honoring Bob McTavish at this year's Boardroom Show presented by US Blanks. So I wanted to get that out there. Let me also tell you, David, that there are various boardroom talks that are going to be featured. One of them with Brian Dickerson from Wavepool magazine. Do you know Brian?
Not personally, but I know him through you and your podcast you did with him.
Yeah. So Brian's going to be featured in one of the boardroom talks. In addition, Scott Hewlett from the Surfers Journal is going to be featured in a boardroom talk, and he's going to be specifically discussing his new book, Flow Violento, and probably knowing Scott, that conversation, excuse me, is going to go in some fun directions. Of course, a Q&A with Bob McTavish is going to be happening. And there's some other things in the works there regarding the boardroom talks.
Amazing. You know, I was talking to somebody who said Jim Banks is coming. Is Jim Banks getting a booth?
No, not that I know of, but
okay. Because I saw one of his surfboards. I saw one of his surfboards last week. And somebody's like, oh yeah, he's going to come out for the Boardroom Show too. So I didn't know if that meant that he was coming to actually showcase his boards or if he was coming just to walk the floor and hang or what. But
he's probably going to have a carload of boards in the parking lot or something.
The boards look sick. They're still very relevant.
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of everything Jim Banks. Believe me, and I've told you this before, he's a freaking guitar player.
Yeah.
Have I told you that? And he's a full like electronic tinkerer guy. Like he knows more about amps and stuff. In fact, the amp that's right next to me here, Jim Banks told me to get this amp. Like I was like, which amp should I get? And he was like going through different amps to get, and he's like, get the Vox. And then he told me, and I forgot, and I texted him, and he's like, the Vox. So I got the Vox amp, and it's because of Jim Banks's recommendation.
Did it live up to his hype?
Oh yeah, it's insane. I had Jim Banks. He was in town one time, and he came by the house, and we did an interview with him.
Right.
And he plugged in, not to this, but he plugged into my crappy amp. He's like, you need a better amp.
That's so funny.
But he's a guitar tinkerer. You know, he's an electronic. He's an interesting guy for sure.
Well, who's who of people will be at the Boardroom Show.
And you know, let me just say this: that the Best in Show board build off is really blowing up into an incredible exhibit and opportunity for board builders around the world. It's brought to you by Go Fast Campers, and the Twinser Best in Show is filling out. It's going to be a pretty fun selection of Twinsers to look through and to gauge. And for the first time ever, we're going to have public voting. So if you go and you see the one that you like the best, you can scan a QR code and vote. So that'll be fun.
The other thing we should mention, I think last year this was really successful, was just you can buy surfboards at the Boardroom Show.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And I've never seen people buy the Twinsers, but I bet you those shapers would sell you those Twinsers too, that
Yep.
they put their heart and soul into. But yeah, come knowing this is the greatest collection of surfboards that you will see in one location, maybe ever, certainly this year. And this is like all the people pulling out all the stops to showcase their finest work. And then last year, even not discounting them, but there was just smoking deals, stuff was priced very, very fairly. And so if you're in a need for a surfboard, come ready to peruse and purchase.
Yeah, I would agree with you that there are eager board builders that would love to sell you boards, and there probably are going to be some smoking hot deals. There usually are.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's good. We're excited about that. I'll give you a few more little quick insights about the show.
Okay.
As I'm starting to tighten up some of the loose ends. There will be conversion vans at the show, a showcase of conversion vans, camper hard goods to outfit. You seem like a nomadic guy, David. I see you like, loading up your camping gear and taking the family down to Baja.
Once upon a time, less now, but yes, I did live a life like that for a period.
Anyway, so there's going to be a fun bunch of vans to check out. But you mentioned surfboards. We're giving away surfboards at the Boardroom Show presented by US Blanks. We're giving away, as I know right now, at least 3 boards. There's going to be an early bird drawing on Saturday. So the first 100 surfers, paid attendees through the door, are entered to win a board on Saturday from the Board Source and Roy Sanchez. So you got a 1 in 100 chance right there. The same thing happens on Sunday. The first 100 paid attendees on Sunday. So Board Source is giving away 2 surfboards to early bird, first 100 paid through the door, both Saturday and Sunday. Gordon and Smith is giving away a surfboard to commemorate their 65th anniversary of being in business, the famous Gordon and Smith label. And so that's just 3. There'll probably be more, especially as board builders hear about this. They like to get in on the giveaways. And we've got live music by Tower 7. If you've ever heard them, they're incredible. Stratocaster, Deluge, and John Bennett's and Jim Volkert are going to be playing music. And we're finalizing some other bands and musicians and other fun stuff that's in the works that I can't mention just yet.
Right. Awesome, man. Well, yeah, Gordon and Smith, 65 years old and still run by the father or the son and daughter.
That's right.
So pretty
Debbie and Eric Gordon.
Yeah, pretty epic legacy there.
And Floyd Smith is their uncle.
Yep.
Yeah. I didn't know that until recently.
So yeah, we'll be there. Fantastic. Cannot wait. Always a fun time seeing all our listeners too. It's like
Boardroom
one time a year to kind of connect with everybody.
Yeah, come and say hi, shake hands. Boardroomshow.com for tickets.
I have a listener email that came in from our beloved Outer Banks of North Carolina.
Oh boy. Oh, is he the winner of the friggin' Real Water Sports foil package?
He is not, but I did
God.
see that video from Trip though.
Timothy, right? I think Timothy won. I think was his name.
I'm not sure.
Guy's from Texas. He scored an insane foil package.
Is Trip coming to the Boardroom Show? Have you spoken to him?
I haven't, but if he doesn't come to the Boardroom Show, I will never speak to him again.
I mean, he's generally there.
He
I've
is.
seen him in recent
I
years.
hope he's there. I
haven't seen him in a fair bit, so it'd be good to see him. But anyways, this email came through from Buxton. He said I don't know. He goes, I know you get lots of submissions for things that you want to share on air, but maybe this is useful. The long short of it is there used to be a small naval base here in Buxton on Cape Hatteras near the old location of the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse. When the Navy tore down the facility, they did not properly remove the fuel lines and or the containers, and the beach has eroded as the beach has eroded over time. It caused diesel fuel to leak into the ocean as the pipes have been exposed. The issue first cropped up just over a year ago. It has ebbed and flowed in severity over that time. but it's gotten significantly worse in these past few weeks after a few bad storms. Furthermore, it feels like the government is expressing very little urgency on fixing the issue, and local voices are now not being heard. I'm writing this because it feels like the only way that we're going to get real change for the issue is through more reporting and exposure. I read one of the tidbits from the article, and it said, quote, on Wednesday, September 4th, multiple people in the area had reported very strong fuel smells coupled with health issues that included red, itchy eyes and nausea. The Cape Hatteras National Seashore, in conjunction with the Dare County Department of Health and Human Services, closed the beach and expanded the closure. Updates on the health advisory are available on this website. So pretty scary stuff, just fuel leaking into the ocean.
That's horrible, man.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry that the Navy has been so slow to respond to it. And frankly, I'm disappointed that the representatives in the area haven't sort of shaken the tree at the Pentagon and said, hey, what's going on here? I'm sure they have. I mean, I have no idea. This is the first I've heard of this, but hopefully they'll get on it and do the right thing so that the people can live happily at the beach and not have red eyes and nausea.
Crazy, right? Like if it's that significant to where you can actually feel the effects of the fuel in the air, it's got to be bad. But the writer, Thomas, goes on to say, quote, not only is this a disaster for an environmental perspective, but it's also unfortunate for the surfing one as well. The Lighthouse Beach is a fixture in surf history for us here on the Outer Banks, and the place where the likes of Brett Barley and other chargers before him cut their teeth. It's not as consistent as it once was, but on days when it's working, I've seen few beach breaks like it. It's a rare sight to behold. Here's more detailed information if you are interested. He links to those articles. I will link them on surfsplendorpodcast.com. Looks like Surfline actually wrote a rundown of it as well. So it is getting a little bit of exposure, but it could probably use more.
Oh, good. Well, Surfline's on it too. That's helpful. And of course, with our affiliation, specifically your affiliation with the Surfrider Foundation, it's apropos that you brought this up. So thank you for doing it.
Completely. Yeah. Surfrider, of course, has local teams there as well. So you could check them out at surfrider.org. I'm just curious if you took the time at all to watch the greatest surf movie in the universe on Stab Magazine this last weekend.
No. And, they say that one of the greatest sins is contempt prior to investigation. And I'm not sure I have contempt, but I don't seem engaged or interested in. It just seems like fun. It seems like a cool thing. I'm glad that Blakey did it. I'm okay with. I'm not against it at all.
Yeah.
I'd rather read. I just don't have the energy for it. But I'm sure it's. And I bet if I watched it, I bet next week you're going to make me watch this, and I'm going to be like, I was wrong. That was super funny, but I don't know if I have the time for it.
Historically, that is how this dynamic plays out, and you would be wise in making that assessment. But I'm going to tell you this time, stick with your instinct. Stick with your gut instinct on this one. Scott, I think it might be right.
Okay. I'm sure there's some real funny tidbits and nibbits in it, and I'm ready to watch, 30-second niblet that's kind of funny, but it's a little South Parky, but well, hold on. I love South Park. Don't get me wrong. South Park's incredible, but it's to live up to the South Park. Like the South Park's great because the writing's next level. And I'm sure that these guys did a great job. I should just shut up. I feel like I'm putting my foot in my mouth constantly here because I don't want to poo-poo anybody's hard work or effort into making some fun stuff. And so good for them.
Yeah. It's interesting. I opened up the comments section just to read try to get a take the temperature of what the public felt about it. And it is very polarizing. There's a couple of comments on there that are like hilarious, loved every minute of it. And then there's more comments, I would say, that are like, holy cow, that was atrocious.
Yeah,
And the funny thing is, it's not atrocious. It is exactly what the trailer states that it's going to be, but it's 90 minutes of it.
That's a lot.
Is
there a narrative that flows through the movie?
It's totally, like the narrative is actually very funny and good. Like it's
what's the storyline? Like a pro surfer has a problem, there's a conflict, and they try to resolve it. And
Yeah,
then
but
in the process of that, there's just a bunch of like sophomore hijinks.
yes, if you were to simplify it, but the actual premise makes it sound more interesting.
Okay, what is it?
The actual premise is um, there's a virus on the planet, and mad scientist comes up with a vaccine. The only problem is the side effect of the vaccine is that it eliminates any memory that there ever was of surfing. And so Huey, who's making these, amazing waves around the world, is kind of bummed because nobody's surfing him. So he activates um, Mick Fanning to remember what surfing was like, and then Mick Fanning goes on a mission quest to get a few other surfers to remember their pro surf career and come back and ride waves with him. So he gets Mason Ho along the way, Matt Wilkinson, Griffin Colapinto, I forget who else, and it's a vision quest type journey.
All right. That sounds interesting. That sounds very interesting. I like the storyline.
It's hilarious. The storyline's hilarious. Like
Yeah.
it would have been a super impactful, hilarious 15-minute short.
Yeah. 90 minutes.
Right. But the surfing's good. Jack Freestone was one of the other surfers. Craig Anderson actually was one of the other surfers too. But when they actually get to the surfing portions, the surfing's phenomenal, of course.
Cool.
But, yeah, Mick Fanning surfing too. Phenomenal.
Mick Fanning, one of the greatest free surfers of all time right now.
No.
Yes or no?
I mean, same exact problem we had with Kelly Slater is, yes, his surfing outside of a jersey is among the best 5 in the world, but I think of him as a contest surfer.
Yeah.
I don't think of him as a free surfer.
Yeah.
Well, that, despite us talking about it for 5 minutes, that is not my must-see moment presented by Trees Wax, which, let's get real, it's next generation performance surf wax because it's petroleum free. So this is the way of the future. Treeswax.com. They will be at the Boardroom Show as well. But my must-see moment is just Yaden Nichols' kid. Did you see the clip of him in the pool recently? I think it was a Waco pool.
No, I don't think I did. No. I may have.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how old he is, 14 years old or something like that.
Yeah.
His aerial surfing that he's doing is just so polished.
Oh, I did see this. Yes.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's truly like, it looks like AI or something. It's just so clean, buttery, great style, greasing the landings, just really the future.
It looks like a skate park. He's skating it like a 14-year-old Tony Hawk. He's surfing, you know what I mean? Like his arm positioning, everything is just flowing so perfectly. There's no awkwardness in any of it. It's all transitionally perfect. It's just insane. Yeah,
it really is. Yeah. King Nichols Surf is his Instagram account, just by the way. King Nichols Surf. Yeah, it's must see only, or must see moment,
Yeah. Tons of stees, right?
Tons of stees.
That's sounds like a t-shirt.
That should be his Instagram handle.
Tons of stees. That should be your Instagram handle just for your hair. Like you should have an Instagram hair account. Tons of stees.
Could be the first one to do it. I don't know if that even exists.
What did I saw? I saw an Instagram account, I think yesterday or this morning, that was I forget. It was something like, it was a dog. It was like a French bulldog. And the title of it, it was something, I don't know. I can't remember, but
okay.
It was stupid.
Anyways,
there I go again, not remembering.
Well, this is the future of surfing though.
Yes.
In that, similar to what we were talking about with not Aaron Brooks, Sierra Kerr earlier, where the reason those kids are as incredible as they are is because their professional surf parent traveled around the world with them for the last decade, putting them in phenomenal surf, getting custom boards dialed specifically for them, and probably coaches, probably dietitians, and everything that comes with it. And so that level of access and opportunity didn't exist prior.
And plus, Yaden paddled that kid out. What's his name?
King.
I
think it's Kingsley maybe, but
Kingsley?
Yeah, King Nickel.
He paddled him out at lowers for years, and the pack just parted, and those guys got tons of great waves together. You know, that's a pretty good training ground.
It is. I mean, look, even if you have priority, what are you going to yell at an 8-year-old kid?
Or
No.
Yaden Nickel. You're not. You're just gonna be like, all right, I guess I'm not going.
Right.
And then there's
exactly.
some other parent with some other kid. And before you know it, you're surfing trails.
Exactly. Yeah. We could do a segment on that being a scourge, actually. But
You know what?
we
That
won't.
sounds like something that you and Chaz should get into. Like the surf parent, like there's a whole litany of stuff you could dive into. But it would be pretty gritty. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're not
But the thing is
wrong.
that we'd all be hypocrites though. Like, cause Chaz is kind of, and I don't want to tell you, Chaz's parent, like their daughter's pretty, like they have like some sort of like, I mean, look, we're all, like I was like that with my son in lacrosse. Like I was the dad that was like
Yeah.
taking my son to everything, like we all are
Well, the taking
kind of
of
victim.
the son,
I don't know
taking
if
of the
guilty
son
is
to
the right
everything-
word.
the taking
Yeah,
of the sun to everything isn't the problem.
Right.
The problem is showing up, breaking all the rules because nobody's going
Right.
to yell at your son for taking the set wave.
Because of maybe some elitism.
Right.
Maybe. I don't know. You guys should dive into that. I think that would be.
We do lots of parenting discussions that are right on the kind of edges of what you're talking about, but we've never taken it straight on the head.
Just pure like surf parents. How far is too far?
Right. Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when was the last time Kingsley Nickel ever looked at you and said, no, you know what? You go.
Right. Exactly.
And by the way, I'm not here to throw shade on whatever. Like I really don't care that much.
Well, if you want to be impressed by his surfing, must-see moment presented by Tree
Kid
Rex,
rips.
check out King.
It's insane.
Yeah,
It's insane. It should be King of Steez. That should be his Instagram. King of Steez.
There you go.
Yeah.
Very good.
All right. Well, look, David, we've said a lot. We've probably pissed off some people. Who knows? That's not our purpose. That's not what we aim to do. We'd much rather have everyone read books. Until next time, adios and aloha.
All right, Scott, drinkag1.com/surf for gut health, for brain firing, function, all of it.
You know what you get? You get tons of nutrients, organic green nutrients, sourced professionally, ag1.com. And I think you get a discount if you go to ag1.com/surf.
drinkag1.com/surf. You get
sorry.
5 free travel packs. You get a year's supply of vitamin D, and it's a 90-day money-back guarantee. So you probably see the ads on YouTube when you pull something up. I know I do for AG1. I see them on Instagram as well. And you've been curious. Well, go to drinkag1.com/surf, and then you can research it for yourself and then know that you have that 90-day money-back guarantee. So you can get 60 days in, and if you don't feel the benefits, you can still get your money back. But I've never heard of that happening.
It's simple. It's easy. It's good for you. Like it's a no-brainer. It's a huge part of my family's and David's family's life. So drink AG1.
drinkag1.com/surf. All right. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah.